I would like to paint you a picture. Let's say you, me, and a few friends sat down and decided to finally try out Pathfinder Second Edition. We've been dancing around the idea of trying the system out, but we decided, why not? But let's play it as safe as possible. You know, none of us are confident in this system, so how about we run a pre-written adventure? Not only is the story taken care for us so we can focus on learning the game itself, but because it was written by the developers of the game, it's already balanced. Balanced. Oh, how naive we were. Howdy. My name is Nonat, and if you read the title of today's video, you know exactly what we're talking about. Last week, I posted a video called, the +1 doesn't matter, you don't need the +1, talking about, the separation of min-maxing characters versus storytelling, which, to be clear, I want to clarify something there. Whenever I say, you don't need that +1, people take that as, if you take that +1, you can't roleplay. If you min-max, you are not roleplaying. That is not what I'm meaning to imply. What I meant in that video is simply that roleplay can often be sacrificed for that +1, but that's not what we're here to talk about today. No, today we're going to be talking about pre-written adventure paths, one of the biggest aspects of Pathfinder 2e, because Paizo just pumps these things out, and they're high quality. Gorgeous artwork, high quality stories, really well written encounters. If you can't tell, today we're talking about the encounters of the adventure paths, and how potentially deadly these encounters are, usually in the first few pages. But first, look up in the sky! It's a bird! It's a plane! It's... What the hell is that?
Never fear, citizen, for it is I, G-Fuel Man, here to combat lethargy and lack of focus. Here, try my divine peach beam. Catch!
Oh, thanks, but I already have some.
If you ever need more, don't be afraid to go to gfuel.com and use code NONAT for 30% off your order. And if you don't want to commit to a large order, consider trying out a starter kit. For just $15, you can get 7 servings of G Fuel, plus a shaker cup alongside of it, all while getting 30% off with code NONAT at checkout. But order while you can, the 30% discount will be gone at the end of October, so act fast as G Fuel Man, away!
Where did he come from? And where is he going? So I wanted to make this video because I kept getting the same comment over and over and over again on that +1 video from last week. And that comment is that we feel we need to min-max because the adventure paths require us to min-max. If we want to survive the encounters that Paizo has put in front of us, we need every single +1 to armor class, damage, and attack rolls that we can get our hands on. And at first I'm like, that's an overreaction. Come on, you can't possibly need to min-max against these. After all, I've played in a few pre-written campaigns, and aside from 1 or 2 bad encounters, I've never really had a lot of problem. A lot of people tout up one of the first encounters in Fall of Plaguestone as being incredibly difficult, and we didn't even realize we had beaten that encounter until a few sessions later when we were like, wait, that was the encounter? The one that we killed in 2 rounds? But that's partly where my own experience is just a small sample size, and when looking at the actual mathematical balance of these encounters, you know what? Those comments might have a point. Also, if you're worried about anything going forward, there will be no direct spoilers in this video. I will mention certain encounters and attack bonuses and damage amounts, but I'm never really gonna say what we're fighting, why we're fighting it, the story. So if you're worried about any kind of that story spoiler, you are totally safe. So just recently, we encountered a certain fight in the Fall of Plaguestone a little ways in that, on the surface, doesn't seem like it should be that bad. The enemies seemed innocuous enough, we were hitting them and dealing damage, and then they got their turn to attack. Now I'm playing a champion, with the best armor available to me and a shield, giving me an armor class of 21 at level 2. Not too shabby, right? These innocuous creatures have a plus 11 to hit me. And if I happen to not raise my shield, which I just didn't one turn and the DM rolled that 19, that was a critical hit. You know, it wouldn't be bad. Maybe I'm like, okay, these things have an insane attack bonus. How much damage could they possibly do? Of my 30 hit points, it hit me for 24. I think it was technically like 22 plus some bleed damage, but regardless, I was dropped to near death in a single hit. And I'm a champion with a decent constitution, you know? I have 30 hit points. A rogue or a wizard would have maybe in the low 20s and would have gotten one shot by this thing. Not only that, this thing had reach. Like I said, it has persistent poison damage. It has an ability that can heal itself for a potential 10 hit points while dealing damage to you, and it has whirlwind attack. You know, the level 18 barbarian feat? Yeah, this level 2 creature has it. So after that encounter, I thought, you know what? Maybe there's some merit to these comments. You know, we survived after some noodling about, some lucky rolls, and the GM being nice and not dogpiling us one at a time. But I wanted to do my research. You know, this encounter was after I made that video and after I read those comments, so now I'm like, maybe there's a trend here. So I decided to do a little bit of research into the single most infamous chapter of any Pathfinder 2e adventure path to date. And that is Chapter 1 of Agents of Edgewatch, Devil at the Dreaming Palace. Oh my god! Like I said, I'm not going to be spoiling anything, but just keep in mind for the rest of this video that this chapter is for level 1 characters. You know, a level 1 character might have 20 hit points if they have a lot of constitution or a high base ancestry. If they're a spellcaster, they're gonna have cantrips and like 2 spells per day, so keep that in mind. The chapter starts off, they have a nice little introductory fight, and then they get to rest for the day. You know, nothing super engaging. But the second day of this campaign, I don't see how it's possible without insane luck. Because in the second in-game day of this adventure path, the party is required, at least as written, to deal with 11 encounters in a row. No resting, barely time to refocus. It is go, go, go. Now, at first I'm like, whew, that's a lot of encounters, but they can at least talk their way out of some of them, right? Yeah, 2 of them, if they roll high enough. If they roll a high enough, you know, diplomacy or intimidation or whatever, they can talk their way, as written, out of 2 of them, leaving 9 encounters in a row. And this is all within like 3 in-game hours that all of this goes down. Now, you might look at it and be like, okay, how hard are these encounters? Are they just all trivial? That would, like, even 11 trivial encounters in a row would wear you down. No. The exact breakdown of these 11 encounters, 1 trivial, 6 low, 3 moderate, and a severe encounter. If you're unaware, a severe encounter is 3 levels higher than the party. That means this party of level 1 characters are expected to fight a level 4 monster. And most of these encounters suffer from that classic Paizo adventure path catchphrase, fights until death. Now, there's a few fights in here which are like fights until incapacitated, or some of them will surrender, which sounds cool. Like, oh, you drop it to half health and it surrenders? Nope, you have to drop it to below 5 hit points to surrender. And like, the chances of them landing below 5 hit points are already low. Like, a lot of things in this game hit for 8+ damage, so if they're at 7 hit points, they're probably just gonna die and not surrender at all. And I still seriously cannot stress enough just how ridiculous the idea of a level 4 encounter is for a party of level 1s after fighting potentially 10 other encounters in a row. The spellcasters are gonna have nothing left. The fighters and whatnot are gonna be really wounded. Like, unless the GM is nice enough to let them spend 10 minutes doing medicine between each fight, they're not gonna have the resources to stay alive. And that's where a big issue comes that is both defendable and not. The GM has the power to change anything. They can remove encounters, they can weaken encounters, they can swap them around, they can do a lot of different things for the players. The problem is if you are brand new to the system, God forbid, if it is you and your friends first time playing Pathfinder and you pick up the first book of Agents of Edgewatch and think, yeah, we'll just run this as written, I'm sure it is going to be completely fine. And all of a sudden, you're 3 sessions in, and you're still on the second in-game day because you've only gotten through 9 combats in 1 day. That would feel horrible. If that was the first thing I encountered in this game, or I guess second thing since it's the second in-game day, I would feel so disheartened. I'd be like, this game is impossible. You know, are all the adventures like this? I would probably never buy another pre-written adventure again, because to me it seems like the developers are expecting us to want to play just a meat grinder campaign, which the developer and writer of this campaign has gone on record saying it was not their intent. That was a chunky segue, but we'll keep it. I recently got in contact with James Sutter on Twitter. This is the author of Devil at the Dreaming Palace, and they were incredibly kind to answer my questions regarding the development of this chapter. I was curious if they planned it to be this difficult, if there was a reason they put so many encounters in a row, and they had this to say. For Adventure Paths, the staff developer in charge puts together outlines, both for the campaign as a whole and for each individual adventure, and then hires authors to write each adventure to that outline. Once an author has written the adventure to spec, it gets thoroughly reviewed and revised by the developer in charge, focusing mostly on game balance, flow, story, encounter design, etc. Then it goes through a whole team of editors. I should note that Edgewatch was a weird one to write because I didn't have the final 2E rules yet, so there were a lot of things changing underneath me as I wrote, and some of that comes through in the adventure. But as a freelancer, once I turn in an adventure, it's out of my hands. I don't see it again until it's published. If anything I write ends up being super brutal, it's either because I screwed up or someone amped things up after the fact. I don't intentionally write meat grinders. To any parties I accidentally TPK'd, I sincerely apologize. Thank you so much, James, for responding to my questions. This was so helpful in this video, and it kind of brings a different light to this chapter. It doesn't make the chapter any less deadly, don't get me wrong. 6 low encounters, 3 moderate encounters, and a severe encounter is going to drain all of a party's resources, but I get the feeling that's not what was originally designed. It sounds like the story beat in question was definitely written out by James in good detail, and then someone in the actual mechanical design team simply thought, well, if all of this is happening, it's going to need to be all of these separate encounters. There's also an idea that if an encounter is low difficulty, it should not cost any, if not many, resources from the party. You know, theoretically, you should be able to beat a low difficulty encounter without losing many hit points and utilizing basically just cantrips, not spell slots. So even if there are 6 of these low encounters, hopefully you're only taking maybe 1 hit throughout each of them. One example of such a low encounter are 2 monsters with only 10 hit points each and 14 armor class. Especially if the monsters roll low initiative, the party can probably kill them before they even get a turn. And even if they do get a turn, they only have a +6 to hit, so assuming you have, let's say, an average 16 armor class at level 1, that's still only about a 50% chance of even taking a hit on an attack. The problem really comes from the volume of these encounters. If each of these monsters gets 1 hit on the party, they're still going to be dealing about 5 damage, which at level 1 is still a good chunk. A wizard might only have, say, 14 hit points, so if they take 5 damage, they're down to, 2/3. Stack that up over 6 encounters, and you're either going to have to use some healing resources or pray the GM says, yes, you have enough time to use your healer's tools. And some low encounters are more dangerous than others, because one single monster is a lot more dangerous than multiple small ones. A creature level 2 is still a low encounter against a team of 4 level 1s. So if that thing gets a lucky critical hit, which is not that unlikely, that could do some major damage. And even though it's a low encounter based off of an XP budget, it doesn't mean it can't still do a big chunk to the party's resources. But what's really interesting about what James mentioned was the fact that at least they did not have the final PF2 rules in front of them, which means I wonder if the designers did as well when they first wrote the encounters. It's very possible they wrote these encounters and PF2 was a very different game. It sounds like this was in development well before the system was finally fully launched, so maybe there were more ways to keep your resources up, or maybe there were stronger non-resource abilities. Who knows, maybe cantrips were stronger or something. I still haven't looked over the playtest for PF2, I should probably do that sometime. But it's very possible that this gauntlet of encounters was less threatening back when they originally wrote it, and it translated to be more threatening when it finally came out. There's honestly a decent chunk of evidence to back this theory up. If you look at early adventures like Fall of Plaguestone, like Agents of Edgewatch, or even Age of Ashes, the encounter difficulty is kinda brutal. It's sometimes just through the roof, because not only were they still trying to figure out how the rules worked at a final product, they were also still learning the games themselves. It doesn't matter if you're the one who wrote the system. The system had still only existed for a mere matter of months. If you tried to write an adventure from level 1 to 20, all pre-written with pre-written encounters, and you've only played the game for a month or two, there's gonna be some encounters in there that are just completely broken. Whether Paizo's gotten better at balancing or not does remain to be seen from experience. I have a lot of their more recent adventures, but I haven't gotten a chance to play them myself. But just a quick glance through Outlaws of Alkenstar Chapter 1 shows, I think, 7 moderate encounters and a low one all in the same day. It's less encounters, but there are a lot of moderate ones, so who knows? Maybe Paizo does design them this way on purpose. Maybe they're very proud of their combat system, and they do believe that the average player should be able to survive this. But who knows? I'd love to hear what you think in the comments below. So let me know what you think. Do you think that the adventure paths are overtuned? Do you think it's good that they're so difficult? Or do you think that we're just overreacting to maybe some bad die rolls on our part without the encounter actually being that difficult? Thank you so much, James Sutter, again for responding to me. It made my research for this video that much more interesting, and it's really cool to get the devs' input on the chapter that has kind of become living in infamy due to its difficulty. I want to give a huge shout out to my patrons and YouTube members. If you weren't in the stream last Friday, you missed a massive member missile. Look at all these new members, because gifting memberships is apparently a thing I didn't know about. It was super fun, we were all kind of overwhelmed, and it was a blast. If you want to join as a member of the channel, click the blue join button below the video. We'll be doing a monthly members only live stream coming up pretty soon, so you'll definitely want to stick around for that. Don't forget to use code NONAT at gfuel.com for 30% off your order throughout the entire month of October. Right now is a great time to get into it. The starter kits are honestly great. They're not a heavy financial investment, but it's a great way to get some product. Try it out, see if it's for you. If it is, buy more using my code, because I get money. That's all from me, y'all. I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day. And until next time, NONAT ones.